Let's open up our task. And as you can see, the start date, due date, priority, and platform have been updated. Hey everyone, it's Ramzi. The ClickUp automation I'm going to show you today is probably one of the most requested ones on their feature board. It's been requested for years, and ClickUp hasn't offered the solution yet. Now I'm going to show you how you can apply the values of a task field to all the subtasks below. How whenever you update a task custom field or regular field, it applies to all the subtasks below. We're going to use a tool called make.com. It's a software that allows you to create automations within ClickUp or external automations between different software without using a line of code. If you want to sign up to make.com, there's a link right in the description. Now take some notes and stay till the end because you'll be able to set that up in your own workspace in a few minutes. Let's get started. Let's first get into ClickUp so that I can show you what the problem looks like. Here we have a client list called Nike, and we have a campaign for this client that we have to handle. We have the campaign, main task, and all the subtasks that we have to go through for this campaign to complete. What I want is that as soon as I update a few fields that are in that main campaign tasks, it applies to the subtask so that I don't have to do that twice. So when I put the start date on the 1st of April and the end date on the 27th, next, I also want to put a priority and I want to select a few platforms. And I wish this would apply to all the subtasks below so that the people that do the research, the media planning, the content creation know that all of this needs to start on Monday, finish on the 27th of April, it's high priority, and we have to do it on these media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, for example. I wish this would reflect on all the subtasks, but what I don't want is for the assignee as soon as I update it to reflect on the subtasks below. Maybe because the assignee that does the research is different than the one that does the media planning. I want to be able to assign each one of those individually, and I don't want the main assignee on the task to reflect on all the subtasks. I only want the start date, due date, priority, and platforms custom field to apply to the subtasks below. Let's get back to our little diagram. We want the subtasks to update when the parent task start and due date changes, the priority changes, the social media platform changes. But we don't want the subtask to update when the parent task assignee changes, when the estimate changes, when the time track changes, or whenever any other field changes. Now, this is how it will look like. Whenever a task is updated, it will trigger our automation, and we want a filter on the dates, priority, and social media field changes only. We don't want the automation to trigger and apply when we change the assignee, when we change the description, when we change the time tracking. We don't want that to apply to the subtask because each subtask needs to have its own assignee or time tracked or time estimate. We only want it to trigger with this filter. As soon as the task is updated, our filter applies, we'll list all our subtasks, and we update each field to the parent's value. Now, it's important to understand how this flow works. It will get the main task, it will filter if it was a priority update or a starting due date update or a custom field update. And then it will look at all the subtasks and it will apply these 4 values to all the subtasks below. That's the easy way. And this is how it looks in Make. Basically, we have a trigger, watch the tasks, then it will filter with our little filter icon here. They will list subtasks of a task and it will edit each task that is listed. The upside is that it's simple to set up because it will use the ClickUp module. But the downside is that it will trigger for every task changes because we can only apply the filter once the task has been updated. If you change any other custom field, if you change the description, if you change the name, the assignee, if you do any single update on a task, it will trigger our automation. And this will become costly because make.com is basically priced on a per use basis, per operation basis. And as you can see, as soon as you start doing a lot of operations, the price will ramp up. So we want to be cost efficient here. We don't want to trigger the automation as soon as a task update is made. We want it to trigger only when the priority changes, when the start and due date changes, or when the social media field changes. What we're going to do is use another method that's more cost efficient. I'm going to go down here in my diagram and I'm going to show you that we are going to trigger this through ClickUp automations as soon as the task priority is updated, the task start date is updated, due date is updated, our social media custom field is updated. Now, whenever that happens, it's going to do exactly the same as before. It's going to list the subtask and it's going to update each subtask value. This is slightly harder to set up. It takes a little bit more time, but it's much more cost efficient. It will only trigger when we need it. And it looks a little bit like this. I'm going to show you how to trigger it in Make. It basically uses what's called a webhook, and then it will trigger these two actions in ClickUp. List my subtasks, update these subtasks. Now I'm going to explain you really simply what a webhook looks like. What a webhook does is that it says, hey, could you let me know when this event occurs, when the priority changes, when the start date, due date changes, etc.? Yeah, sure, I'll keep you updated. And then it happened, and that's setting up the webhook. And the next step is for the event to happen. It will say, hey, the priority has been changed. And Make will say, hey, thank you. I acknowledge the update. Let's get started with our automation. What we're gonna do is use a ClickUp automation that looks a little bit like this. It says, whenever a priority changes, trigger my webhook, please, using this URL. And what's great with that is that it will only be triggered when we need, when the priority changes, when the start and due date changes, and when the platform field changes. Now let's get started. What we're gonna do is create our triggers in ClickUp, then go create our automation in make.com, and I'll show you the miracle of applying the values of a task to its subtasks. First thing you're gonna have to do is to sign up into make.com. If you wanna sign up, there's a link in the description below. It's pretty straightforward. It will take you a few seconds. And once you're in there, you should see this screen and it's gonna be your first automation. Now I've called it ClickUp, task updated, arrow, ClickUp, update subtask fields. That's usually how I name my automation, and I recommend you to use a naming like this: software, trigger, arrow, second software, and action. This way you're gonna be able to easily understand what each automation does when you start to have a lot. First thing first, we're gonna have to create our first webhook. Now I've explained to you what a webhook is, but you really don't have to understand the technicalities behind it. What we're gonna do is click plus, and we're gonna go into webhook. This should be the first module, custom webhook, and we are going to add a new webhook, and we are going to call it task field updated. I'm not going to put any IP restriction, and we're going to save. Now, make.com is going to give us a URL that we're going to have to copy. This link is going to be used in our ClickUp automation. I'm going to get back to ClickUp here, and I'm going to go into our space called delivery because we want this automation to apply to all of our clients. Into that space, I'm going to click automations here, and I'm going to add an automation, and I'm going to trigger it as soon as the custom field platform gets updated, for example. I'm going to select our field here, custom field changes, field platforms from any to any. So as soon as it changes, no matter in which way, it will trigger our automation. Now next, we're going to go into then and click webhook, call webhook, and we're going to put our URL. And that's it. That's all you're going to have to do. Then we're going to create this. And this means each time the platform field is updated, our automation will be triggered. Now I do the exact same thing as in Make. I will name my automation with the trigger and the action. Platform field updated, trigger subtask update webhook. Now I've already pre-created the other automations to save a bit of time. We're going to open them up. What it says is as soon as a priority changes, call the webhook. We're going to use the same URL. Now, as soon as the due date changes, call webhook, use the same link. And as soon as the start date changes, call the webhook and use the same link. We have our 4 triggers. You can take a screenshot of this. You can go back to this video. Pretty straightforward. Prepare your triggers, prepare your webhook URL, and you're good to go. Now, one thing to make sure of when you trigger the automations is to make sure the event happens only on a task and to save it. This is pretty important because otherwise it will trigger make each time it happens on the subtask, and we don't want that. I'll update all of those to the trigger on the task, triggers when this happens on the task, we're good. And the last one is going to trigger when this happens on the task. And we're going to rename it to start date field updated. Perfect. Now the next thing to do is going to be to create our next steps. Our event happens. Now we're going to add a module and we're going to find ClickUp. I already got it there, but otherwise you can search it, and we're going to select it. And we are going to add our second step, which is to list the subtasks of a task. You're going to have to connect to ClickUp for the first time. It's pretty straightforward. It will ask you to log into ClickUp, pick your workspaces, and bring you back to make.com. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to select your workspace. And we are going to select the ones that we need, agencies, which is a workspace where we have to do the automation. And next, we're going to pick our parent task ID. It's going to pick the data from the previous module, and we're going to use the one called payload ID. This is the task that triggered our automation. This is the one we need. Now we're going to go into the limit field and we're going to put 100. What this means is that ClickUp will list up to 100 subtasks for task, and that's definitely very conservative. You probably will never have more than 100 subtasks. This would be insane, and this will allow us to cover most use cases. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to have to trigger the automation again because we need data from that second module. So we're going to run once again. We're going to get back here and we're going to update the same field. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put the priority to urgent. Back to make.com, as you can see, it updated the webhook and it updated the ClickUp module. This means we can put our third module. We're going to select the module called Edit a Task with Custom Field Advanced. And this time we're going to select the result of that second module, so the task idea that pops up in the list subtasks of a task, because that's going to be our first subtask. As you can see, it's named Reporting and Optimization. That's the name that we have in ClickUp. We're going to select task ID, and we're going to go down through all of these fields. We don't need to update this. We don't need to update the content type, the content, the assignees. Doesn't really matter. What we need to update though is going to be the priority first. And we're going to pick the priority from the parent task, the one that's in our first module, the one that's in the module in red, and that's going to be the one that's here. Priority, payload, priority, priority. Then we're going to have to pick our due date. So we're going to search for something called due date. Great. That's the one here in red, due date. So payload due date, and then start date. We're going to search for start date. It's the one here, and we are good to go. Now, the last thing we have to update is going to be the custom field. We're going to add an item. You're going to search for our custom field ID. It's down here, custom fields, platforms, and the custom field ID is this one, custom field ID. And then we're going to select the type. This is actually a label custom field, and it's going to ask us for the values. And we're going to map the values this time. We're going to select map, because mapping the values is basically a comma-separated list. You don't have to understand the technicalities again, just follow through this tutorial, value, map, and let's go down. And we are going to pick the values that are here. Payload, custom field, value. And we're good to go. We're going to click OK. Amazing. Save our automation. That's quite important. Next, let's run this automation another time. And let's get back into ClickUp and see if this works. We're going to update the priority to high. Now make.com is going to run through each automation. And as you can see, it's applying it to each of the subtasks. It should have as many operations as there are subtasks in ClickUp. And there are 7, that's perfect. Let's get back to ClickUp. Let's open up our task. And as you can see, the start date, due date, priority, and platform have been updated. This is it. This is probably going to save you hours of manual work if you need that feature. Now let's try it again. Let's try to change the priority of this project. Let's say this project becomes very urgent. Now there's a few seconds of waiting because it's working in the background. And what I'm going to do is refresh my screen. I'm going to reopen my task. And this is it. This has been applied. Now let's remove LinkedIn as a social media. Wait a few seconds again, and that's it. LinkedIn has been removed. Our automation worked in the background. If I open that bubble up, as you can see, it applied it to all the subtasks. And that's the beauty of make.com. These are the kind of things that will save you hours every day. Now, this is typically the kind of automation we set up at Upsys, my agency. If you want to help with that, you can book a discovery call through the link in the description. We will lay down your automations. We will understand what you need and see all the technicalities behind it, because they can be more complex than this. And we'll prioritize them and focus on the one that will save you hours. And we set that up for you. That's what we're here for. We're here to advise you, and we're here to relieve you from the manual work. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stay productive.